Hi guys, welcome back to our final video on joy. Our guest today is Aisha once again, as I introduced her the last time. She's my sister. What I didn't mention is that she is one of three sisters. So I don't want my other sisters to feel left out. She's one of three. They're all older than me, but she is the one that comes right before me. Thanks again, Aisha, for being with us. Today, we're going to be talking about what do we do when we don't feel joyful.
Hi guys, it's good to be back for another session. I hope you found the previous one not just engaging, but definitely gave you stuff to think on. And if you have anything that you feel led to share, any comments that you'd like to leave, you can go ahead, put it in the comments and, definitely put it out there so other persons can also read, follow, and get insight for themselves.
All right, so we're going to start. Guys, as you would have recognized from the last video, it's not going to be our usual 5 to 10 minute videos. So get your popcorn. Let's do this. So the question, as I said, is what do we do when we don't feel joyful? I wanted to start by reading Ecclesiastes chapter 3. What Solomon is saying in these verses is that there's a time and purpose for everything. So it starts by saying, to everything, there's a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. And the verses go on to describe the different times: a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up. In verse 4, it says a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. And you can continue and read the scripture throughout the verses. But why I wanted to start with it is because we touched on it in our last video, but I just want to remind persons that there are going to be times when we may not feel joyful, and that's okay. There are going to be times when we have family members or friends who are going through a difficult season, and we are going to want to support them by mourning with them, and that's fine. So what I think the first thing we need to do when we recognize that we don't feel joyful is we need to figure out why we don't feel joyful. So we want to say, what is the reason for this? And what season of life are we in? So we want to say, whether it is that it's a time of mourning for us, or is it that we are in a space that doesn't foster our joy, or we recognize that we've taken on a posture of complaining, as Aisha had said last week, as opposed to a posture of gratitude. And once we identify the reason, that's when we can start to figure out what approach is best to take to tackle the question of what do we do when we don't feel joyful.
Definitely, Shani. So, as you said, the Bible says it first of all, but there is a season for everything. Mourning, celebrating, planting, harvesting, and that goes back to even just the fruits of the Spirit. During the season of planting and, just nurturing, the truth is that we may go through some hardships. That is what exercises a lot of these muscles. We go through hardships so we can build on our faith. We go through times that we're down so we can build on our joy. We are surrounded by certain persons, sometimes those who are draining us or just filling our life and space with things that we don't need necessarily at that moment, or negativity. And we have to go through that time. We have to be surrounded by those sort of persons. We have to build some form of relationship or, sit in that for a while for us to be able to harvest and bear fruit. And so even in the seasons when we are going through whatever kind of turmoil or trial that we're going through, we have to remember, and I guess that goes back to the joy and the peace that I spoke about previously, that we don't know why we're going through stuff. God is the only person who sees the future. He's the only person who knows why he's putting us through certain things. I am the person, I don't like people coming to me and saying, God have a plan for you. That is why you're going through this. Or, him don't give us more than we can bear, that kind of thing. And I'm just like, right now, I don't feel like I can bear it. Allow me to sit in it for a while and just go through it and feel. Allow me to wallow for like 2 minutes. And then I'm gonna, come out of it. But don't tell me he doesn't give me more. I don't want to necessarily be greeted by that when I am going through something. And so it's important also, you spoke about family or friends going through things, for us to know how to address them as well. What is that person? What is the person's character? What is their personality? How best can we be helpful to them, and that shoulder that they may possibly need at that time? There's a proverb, I guess, that I've always really liked. It says, life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. And it's just seeing the little good sometimes that there is in a situation. It's not saying, oh, I have this illness, but at least I'm not dead. I'm not necessarily comparing it to that. And it's not comparing, oh, I'm going through something now, but Shani went through something so much worse. And imagine, I don't necessarily believe in that as well, because of our personalities or surroundings, how we're brought up, everybody's going to handle different situations differently. And so comparing what you're going through to someone else and how they went through isn't going to do you any good. So you could be going through the same kind of season, but how are you going through it? What is going to help you to come out of that season and come out of that season better? Because you can always come out of that season on the other side, worse off for it. How do you see what is causing you to be in this slum? Whether it's you, and sometimes it has absolutely nothing to do with you. We spoke on this. We spoke about Job. He went through something. It had nothing to do with him. God literally was just like, all right, devil, you want to do something? Go to that one. No matter what you do to him, you're not going to shake him. It's not what he went through. And he went through everything. At the end of it, though, because of how he went through, God multiplied the blessings that he had previously. And so thinking on that and acknowledging that we are going to go through things, sometimes to put ourselves in situations. And so, of course, as we know, there are consequences for decisions and for choices that we've made. Other times, it could be generational curses. So it has absolutely nothing to do with you. Other times, it could literally just be God saying, hush, you're going to have to go through this a year, a week, couple years for the rest of your life. But going through, because you don't know when it's going to end, you don't know what the end result is going to look like. What is it building? What is God actually, you spoke about it. So what is God trying to build in you during that time? Don't take it for granted. Don't take those seasons of times when you're low, times when you're down. Don't take those seasons for granted, because in those seasons, God is at that point, or wanting you to exercise these muscles, to sit with him, to build your faith, build your peace. I was thinking about just names of God where I don't necessarily use it in prayer, but sometimes when I'm talking to him, I will use Yahweh Shalom. So the Lord is my peace. And for me, that is huge, because no matter how much turmoil is going inside of me, and as I brought up before, how annoying it can be sometimes to have this peace, because I'm looking at God and saying, God, I want to go through this anger. Like, let me go through this anger. Let me go through it in my brain. Let me go through it physically if I need to go through it physically. I just feel like this is my season to fight somebody, or this is my season to cuss them out. And then God is just like, stop talking. Like, you talk too much. Just sit down. And then there's a peace that comes over me. And even in that peace, though, there's still that turmoil, because I'm allowing flesh, or I want flesh to prevail. Just for a toops of time, Jesus, please, allow me to feel the goodness on that side, and then I will come back over to this side to where the peace is, And so we're gonna go through those times, but it's again, not feeding that wolf, not giving in. And for God to be able to do that in you, you also have to play a part with not giving into the flesh all the time, finding out what's causing it, looking at it, understanding it, and then now finding out how is it best for me to now come out of this situation. And for me, I'm not really good at scripture verses. I don't remember them. I mean, I remember some stories that were told to me a lot as a child. This is really horrible. I'm so sorry, mommy and daddy, grandmas, all of you. Like, I know you're trying really, really hard with me. But what resonates with me, though, are songs. So I sent you, the cousins, some of my friends, the song So Will I, and that song for me, especially in this season, I don't even know what this season really is, but it's been a song that I can listen to over and over, and it's just, God, you have a plan, and your plan is bigger than me. You've never left me behind. With a single word, all of my failures disappear. You know, you sent your son to the grave, you gave him up for us, and you did all of these things for us. And I don't know what the plan is for me. But if you have done all of this, then I will continue praising you. You know, COVID happened. We don't know where it came from, really and truly. Other natural disasters take place. We don't know what's happening there. God is the person in control, or God is a being in control. And we don't know why he allows certain things to happen. But again, even in a time of COVID, we were given a chance to sit with ourselves, and nature was given a time to replenish. The amount of cars that were on the road just weren't anymore those fumes, just the toxicity that was there. And as individuals, we were able to sit more with ourselves. And some people, all you needed was physical rest. Some persons needed the time to sit down mentally, spiritually, and just become more at peace with yourself, and start to just remove yourself from that time where you were able, or you were removed from situations, and you suddenly found out that I really didn't need to be around these people or in this space. And outside of COVID, it's no longer something that I want to be around, or it's easy for me to walk into a space now and just be like, I don't want to be here today, or I don't like how this is feeling. I know I can just get up and walk out, you know? So in the season that was COVID, everybody got from it different things, you know? And now we're out of that season. Who are you now on the other side?
I like the angle you took. I see where you're saying that being intentional is a huge part of it. And also what works for you may not work for me, what works for me may not work for you. So it's important that we sit with ourselves and really figure out what's causing the lack of joy at first. And then for me, what brings it to me and what do I need to foster it and put myself back in that environment. So it's important for us to know for ourselves what works for us. You said music works for you. And so for other persons, you know, it may or may not work, but it's really an individual journey. So we need to find out for ourselves. I think for me, I do a lot of introspection. So I'm very in tune with my emotions. And I know when I'm feeling a particular way, and I really do try to address it because I know that there's a reason and I want to get to the bottom of it type of thing. I wasn't always like this, but in more recent times, I've come to recognize the benefit and value of being aware of how I feel and why I feel that way. And so when I realize that I'm not feeling joyful, I will do something similar to what you said. Take a few minutes to really sit with myself and find out why am I feeling this way, and then put in place the steps to get me out of it, which a lot of times are not necessarily things I want to do, but I realize that as you keep making mention of like the muscle movement and just putting things into practice, it's just things I realize that, you know, are best for me to do. So I just opt to do them. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes I stay in the space a little bit longer than I would have wanted to. And sometimes I can't figure out why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. And sometimes I literally cannot figure out the answer either. I do counseling. I strongly believe that therapy and counseling can be helpful in just guiding us on the journey of figuring out ourselves, what it is that's causing certain things, and finding the solutions to address them. And so for me, that's where I find my answer many times, in seeking professional help, where they, you know, guide me on the journey, ask the questions that I may not have asked myself. And then I'm able in turn to process it a little bit more. When I seek for those answers, I realize, okay, this is where it's coming from. And then I can address it. But it's a process. You know, I always realize that it's important for us, when we're not feeling joyful or feeling the way we want to feel, to be gentle on ourselves. And as you said, you know, COVID gave us that time to be with ourselves and to really think things through. And I think what's important in this is being kind to ourselves and realizing that, you really don't feel joyful for a reason. And it's okay that you don't feel joyful. And it's important that you take the time that you need to really get to the bottom of it so that you can, in your own timing, at your own pace, be back where you want to be, or even, further along the joy journey that you want to be.
Yes, Shani, I definitely agree with that. You spoke about being kind to yourself. I use the word, and I got it from someone, learning to give yourself grace. We see persons going through stuff and we're always just like, yeah, man, you can go through it, I'm here. But then when we are going through things, a lot of us, or some of us, are like, yo, you need to get out of it. Like, why stay in this space so long, that kind of thing. We don't allow ourselves to go through, which I'm learning is very important, because when you don't go through something, what ends up happening is that what persons see, or what you're putting out there, or what you've led yourself to know, believes that you're okay, but you aren't necessarily okay. And when you don't go through the actual thing, things build and build and build and build. And when that erupts, that's an ugly thing. And that sometimes leads you to, I don't even know what. And it will take you to the other side, and being able to regain that joy, that peace, that person that you are trying so hard to be may become very, very difficult. And for some persons, they will never reach back to that point, So giving yourself and others just the grace to go through their seasons, being there with them. Sometimes it's silent, sometimes it's giving a word of advice. A lot of times it's just prayer, you praying for that person, you praying for yourself, allowing yourself to, and knowing which muscle that you need to exercise at that point. Sometimes it's not necessarily joy, it's having faith, faith that everything is going to turn out okay, even though right now it's not okay, and it hasn't been okay for a good while. But whatever okay is, it may not turn out the way I want it to be, but at the end of the road, it is how it was supposed to be. I definitely remember at the beginning, when I was just diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, one of my issues, I was angry, but I wasn't angry for getting it. Honestly, like, I've never been, God, why me? Why not somebody else? I can't recall ever thinking that. But I was angry because everybody else's life had to change to accommodate me. And it was something that bothered me. You, I think, had to stop working for the summer, at least for a little while, when we were in Westmoreland. Keisha had to be back and forth. Daddy was back and forth. Mommy wasn't well at the time. Carrie was in Kingston. Then when I came to Kingston, they had to carry food upstairs. And, Grandma never really liked food in the room. But even she was like carrying food to me in the bed when the hemorrhoids were really, really bad and I couldn't get up and would not walk to the bathroom. And just seeing how other person's lives had to change around it, I couldn't even find, at that point, I couldn't even be grateful for it, because I was more angry. Just because I was just like, why are you making this happen? Everybody have to be catering to me, and I can't just continue living their life to the best way that they want to live it. I wasn't upset because I had it. I was just like, this happens to persons, and who am I to say that I shouldn't have gotten this? Who am I to say what this is supposed to do for me, for persons around me? No, that's not true. Sometimes I've asked why once or twice, but it's not like a why me, give it to somebody else. It's more like, what is the actual purpose of this? At the end of the day, what is this doing? Is it just for me? Is it for other persons? Is it for everybody? That kind of thing. That's more or less why I asked the why. But in that moment, that's when I had to start regrouping and pulling myself back, and removing myself from that anger, removing the anger from me, I should say. And I had times where I just had to be like, school was still going on, life was still happening, and I literally was just like, all right, right now I'm angry, but bless this person, bless. And it was me blessing persons who I thought were doing me wrong, and it was forcing myself. I had to force myself out of that time of anger, because if I sat in it any longer, I'd become bitter. And bitterness is just not something you want, And so I had to just start blessing people who were doing me good, blessing people I thought weren't doing me good, blessing people who outright weren't doing me good, And in that time as well, as I said, it wasn't joy that I was manifesting. It was a kind of faith to know that everything is going to be okay. So I don't need to ask questions. Like, God is in control, and this is what He's building at this moment. So it wasn't songs, it was just me sitting down, allowing myself to breathe, and then forcing myself to know, do this other thing and work this muscle, exercise this muscle. And I don't like exercising in general, not physical things, right? So exercising this muscle to ensure that I wasn't now sitting and staying in this place of anger and not understanding why God was now using my situation to what I thought was just messing up other person's lives, like putting a peg, in other person's road.
Thanks for that, Aisha. And what I'm hearing you say is, it's important for us at times to reach within and dig for our strength to do things that we don't necessarily feel like doing, but we know the value and importance of them. So that's a good reminder for us to remember that we are capable of reaching for the strength that God has given us. And, we just need to tap into that. And I want to close by sharing a Bible verse. It's taken from 1 Thessalonians 5, verses 16 to 18. And it says, "Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, in everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you." And this verse tells us, that we can rejoice all the time. When we're not feeling joyful, one of the things we can do is pray. Talk to God about it. He's always wanting to hear from us. So conversation with Him is crucial. So the Bible verse is just reminding us, when we're not feeling joyful, pray to Him, find something to give thanks for, and continue to rejoice, whether it is in song or giving or talking with someone or dancing, whatever it looks like to you. Just remember that we can reach for it and we are called to exercise it. So thanks, Aisha. It was great having you share with us. And guys, we're going to move on next week to another concept, and I look forward to sharing with you guys. Any final words, Aisha?
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me, Shani. I really hope that you guys who are watching found it informative, found it a blessing. And once again, if you guys have any comments, anything to add, anything you'd like to share, remember to drop it in the comments. Remember, volume 4 of My Gem is out. It's out on Amazon for those of you who are abroad in the US, or for those of you who are in Jamaica, the link is in the description below. So just go there, make your order. You definitely won't regret getting these books. If you haven't subscribed to the channel as yet, then make sure you do that. Watch the previous sessions that have happened. And as Shani said, there are a few more coming up. So to close out the year and to close out the topics that she dealt with in her final volume of My Gem, and you guys won't want to miss out on that either. So thank you once again for having me, Shani, and hope to see you guys and your comments on this session.
It was great. Thank you. Bye, guys. See you next time.
Bye.